Welcome back to the Blissful Badger. Before we start this video, I'd like to mention, down in the description, I have a link to a Discord. So, if you're interested, check it out.
Oi, why come it always snowing? Thought we were in the desert.
So in this video, I want to go over some of the interesting things that happen in 40k. So, a lot of people might have access to trees. And they're okay as far as having terrain on the table, but they're always evergreen, and most of the time they're snowing. So I wanted to have some trees that maybe weren't always snowing for those times when we're on a planet that isn't actually covered in snow. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I made Necron Spire trees. They're really simple to make, and they come out pretty good.
So what you'll need is a hobby paint. I chose jet black. Some inexpensive PVA. A large pack of wood pencils in hexagon shape. And a hot glue gun and some glue. And a can of spray paint in the color you would like to show through. Overall, I think I spent less than $10 on everything I needed for this. For this project, I would suggest not to use a jigsaw because the lead inside of these pencils gets all over the place and you don't want to ruin a nice blade or a nice piece of equipment cutting these. Instead, I would suggest something that has replaceable blades. It might take a little bit longer to cut, but it will be a better result on your tools overall. There's going to be a lot of dust, so make sure where you cut these is easily cleanable. So the first step is to cut your pencils to size. Any size works. I like to get at least 3 pieces per pencil. This way, when I get them glued to the base, I can make a variety using somewhere between 6 and 10 pieces per tree. And you want to make sure all of the different sizes are represented. It'll make for a better spire. Once you've cut all of your pencils to size, it's time to hot glue them to bases. Overall, it doesn't matter what size bases you use. I used a mixture of 50 mil and 40 mil because I had extra of those sizes. So make sure you don't burn yourself with hot glue. It is hot like the title calls for. And just stick them down in whichever shape and position you think looks good. Sometimes I go for a central spire and graduating downwards, and sometimes I go for multiple spires or slightly off center. Overall, you have plenty of pencils and have at it. Trees in general are not all all identical, so why should the spires be any different? Once you have them all built, the next step is to prime. This first batch I primed black before I hit with my pistachio primer. This was just to make sure everything covered well. But the next batch will just be pistachio over the yellow pencils. And after one coat, I figured I'd go out and get a second coat put on them. And it was extremely windy, so I had a little bit of a pickup job to do. So after I got a second coat done, I brought them inside and let them dry overnight. I wanted to make sure that the undercolor would not come up while I was working on the next process. Now that everything is dry, we need to get the PVA and paint that we're going to be covering these with. Right now, that pistachio color is quite bright, so it should be good peeking through the jet black. It has a lot of contrast. So the first batch, I decided I would take the PVA and immediately follow it up with the jet black. I wanted to see how it would react immediately on wet PVA. The next batch, I put the PVA down and let it sit for 30 minutes so I could see how putting the paint over a tacky PVA would turn out. Out of these two batches, I think the next one I'm going to try at 15 minutes. I love the look of both, but neither is exactly where I was looking for. So the good news is I'm making another batch, and I'll eventually have 42 of these spires. Let me know in the comments down below which of the designs you like the best, and if you think that maybe the 15 minutes will turn out even better. Ah, the metal umis are on the way. Maybe I should give up on the accents. Subscribe if you haven't, so that you don't miss any future videos. I also want to thank my patrons and supporters for making these videos possible. And until next time, I hope you find your bit of bliss.